And remember when TikTok came out and most people seemed skeptical until it very quickly became the next big thing. And then just a few months later, Instagram said, hey, we can do that too. And then they dropped Reels, kind of like they did with Stories after Snapchat. And of course, don't forget Twitter at the time launched Fleets, which was a copy of Stories. And since then, TikTok's copied YouTube by offering 10-minute videos. And then YouTube copied TikTok by making YouTube Shorts. And Instagram's copied both of them by making IGTV and Reels. Well, now TikTok has put down the Uno reverse card yet again and is trying to copy Instagram with something called TikTok Notes, which looks like it's just another picture and text sharing thing a la, I don't know, Threads and maybe like old school IG. And some users are already getting a message that their photos could be shown on the app. And a website for TikTok Notes is currently live on the web with a non-functioning open app button that has maybe a taste of it, a graphic of photos with captions underneath. Now remember, all of this is happening as time is ticking for TikTok as it faces an uncertain future here in the U.S. Last month, the House pushed this bill that could effectively ban TikTok in the U.S., but things are moving real slow over in the Senate. And yes, all of this sounds extremely exhausting, but am I going to download it to see how it works? Probably. And one of the first people I'm going to be following is the one, the only, Taylor Lorenz. She is a Washington Post tech columnist. Taylor Lorenz, the author of Extremely Online, and I would argue the social media historian of our generation. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so jumping in here. TikTok's possible ban in the United States may be looming. Is this a play to like sink the roots even deeper into the United States or just like a reach for more growth? What do you think?
It's both of those, I would say. I mean, they want to grow and just get as much scale as possible in the U.S. as before this potential ban. Now, it's unclear whether this ban could affect something like TikTok Notes, especially even with TikTok in the name. ByteDance also recently launched Lemonade, which is kind of their version of Pinterest as well, and that's also been getting traction in the U.S. So I think ByteDance is really trying to maintain its market share in case of a ban.
So you can already share photos on TikTok. What is the point of making a whole new app to do that?
Well, it's different modes of expression. I mean, I liked what you said earlier. It's kind of taking it back to this old school Instagram feel. I think a lot of people these days on Instagram actually want a place to just share photos, maybe with friends, or just share more low effort forms of content. That's the sort of the beauty of Instagram Threads as well, which has been getting some traction. So we'll see. This could also just be a hedge if TikTok does get banned. Maybe TikTok Notes suddenly evolves and starts putting video in. We'll see. But I do think that photos aren't going anywhere. I mean, people still take and share photos every day.
Speaking of a throwback, I very vividly remember the day you wrote that article about how the Instagram aesthetic was dead. And to me, that's when the Instagram aesthetic died. And I don't know when that was, but that was years ago, right? And ever since then, like Instagram, that magic, and I'm just speaking for myself, but it kind of lost a little bit of that luster, the aesthetic at least. Do you think that there's still nothing that is filling that, and TikTok might be trying to capture that in this weird, sticky, like algorithmic way that they do, or are they going to bring something that we haven't seen before?
Definitely. I think it's trying to play on this nostalgia that I think a lot of people have for a simpler time. I mean, you've seen all of these bills across Congress and state legislations aimed at restricting social media. You have, this new book called The Anxious Generation, which is all about sort of like the dangerous harms of social media. I think some of them are overblown, but we want, I think, more lightweight ways to share. We don't want to put everything out there on video at all times. And I think this is giving it a bit of a throwback. As you mentioned, Instagram has gotten way too crowded. It's a mall, it's a video app, it's a messaging app, it's live streaming. It's almost too much to too many people. We saw this happen with Facebook as well. And so I think a very stripped down kind of simple app could take hold, but it just remains to be seen if that type of content is still as engaging as we remember it to be.
Okay, so this kind of leads me to another question. It feels like TikTok, at least for me, came in at a time when like a lot of people were kind of sick of seeing the same stuff from the same people in the same way. And then all of a sudden you were seeing stuff from absolute strangers. You were interacting again with it felt like the web at the beginning. Instagram is now expanding in that way, in a big way, where you're starting to see stuff from strangers and they seem to be tweaking their algorithms too. Do you think that this could be another play at that?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok's core use case or sort of core benefit is its discovery mechanism. No one is better at delivering content that you want to see than TikTok. And I think that's where Instagram has always struggled. I mean, you have to remember that US-based social networks are all fundamentally built on this old model of social media where it's the burden is on the user to like seek out people and then follow them. And then that's how the content is delivered. So when you see weird stuff in your Instagram feed, it often feels kind of like doesn't belong there. Whereas TikTok is really good at discovery. So I think if they can build an app similar to kind of old school Instagram or focus more on text and photos, but really nail discovery, they could be kind of what Instagram never was able to achieve.
There is one thing about discovery on TikTok that I've noticed, and it's the engagement on the comments, right? And there is like an ugly side of TikTok that happens there. Do you think, and some can argue that that makes a lot of the algorithmic recommendations extremely sticky because nothing engages like a bunch of people going off in the comments. Do you think that we could see some of that in whatever they're working on now?
Yeah, I think what TikTok recognizes also better than anyone is that an engaging comment section is often more entertaining than the post itself. And sometimes the post is just sort of jumping off point. So I think they're going to get people talking with this. It remains to be seen whether or not it ends up banned in a few months as well. But I think that they will certainly leverage that core technology that made TikTok a hit to give it a try.
Well, as long as it's around, you better accept my friend request. Taylor Lorenz, thanks so